I welcome you back, and that with an important topic, that of healing and wellness. Now, this subject has recently increased in relevance to me as I have been struggling with some health issues myself and realized once again how frustrating physical health struggles can be and how effective divine healing approaches or energetic regeneration through visualization, meditation, and the maintenance of a high vibrational or blissful state can be for full recovery. Now, I am honored to share some of the insights of divine wisdom as they have been revealed to me during my studies and meditations, and perhaps I will also talk a little bit about my recent experiences. Now, I have had a series of conditions, some common and some rather rare, and especially in the harder cases when no material cure was available or effective, once I started to visualize myself being healthy again and allowed myself to assume this state of wellness and then allow my mind to stay fixed in a state of trust, healing started to take place. We have to constantly choose the thoughts we carry. The harder the sickness that we have fallen ill to, the more we tend to think frustrated, unconstructive thoughts of fear or self-pity or worry over if or when we are going to be well again. But we have to remember that these thoughts carry a creative power that is communicated to every cell in our body. So choosing thoughts of faith, optimism, hope, and the reality that we are already being healed will make all the difference. So there are basically three types of illness. There's physical, mental, and spiritual sickness. Physical sickness is due to different forms of toxic conditions, infectious diseases, or accidents, and mental sickness is caused by fear, worry, anger, and other emotional inharmonies. Now, soul-based or spiritual sickness is due to man's ignorance of his true relationship with God. So ignorance is the supreme disease. When one banishes ignorance, he also banishes the causes for all physical, mental, and spiritual disease or dis-ease. Now, Swami Sri Yukteswar said, "Wisdom is the greatest cleanser." He also said that one should disbelieve in the reality of sickness even when you are ill, because an unrecognized visitor will flee. Now, trying to overcome various kinds of suffering by the limited power of curative material methods such as medicine or painkillers is often disappointing, because only in the unlimited power of spiritual methods may we find a permanent cure for all kinds of diseases of body, mind, and soul. Now, that boundless power of healing is to be sought in God. At this point, especially for the agnostics out there, and I do believe that every true seeker on the path should consider himself agnostic, at least in some way or to some degree. As in the famous words attributed to Socrates, "I know that I know nothing." But you have to get over the fact that when we talk about God, we are not thinking about a person. We are thinking about an impersonal, yet intelligent source of all life and existence. This is our source. And even if you've suffered mentally over the loss of loved ones, let's say, which is a very adamant kind of mental suffering, you can find them again in God, where the continuity of life becomes evident and accessible. I'm speaking from experience here. Last year, after my twin brother died, I was indeed able, and I'm still able, occasionally, by the grace of God, to find him right where I am. Whether it's through dreams, visions, or simply through feeling, this closeness is then communicated. And I don't care if anyone believes that these are genuine encounters, but I'm telling you that all things are possible with God. Limitations, after all, were not created by him. They are created by you and me. Now, that's a subject for a future time. This video should have an emphasis mainly on overcoming physical health struggles by the power of our mind. So let's get on with that. Unless you really know God, so unless you really realized your essential oneness with that source, you're not justified in saying that only mind exists and therefore I do not need to obey health laws or use any physical aids for healing. Until actual God realization is attained, we should use our common sense in all that we do. At the same time, one should never doubt the power of the Creator, but should constantly affirm his faith in God's omnipresent divine power. Doctors try to investigate the causes of disease and to remove those causes so that the illnesses do not recur. And in their use of many specific material methods of cure, doctors are often very skillful. However, not every disease responds to medicine and surgery, and therein lies the essential limitation of these methods. Chemicals and medicines affect only the outer physical composition of the bodily cells and do not alter the inner atomic structure or life principle of the cells itself, the lifetronic or pranic level. In many cases, no cure of disease is possible until the healing power of God has corrected from within the imbalance of lifetrons or intelligent life energy in the body. According to the yogis, the two basic causes of disease are either underactivity or overactivity of the life energy prana, which structures and sustains the body. For those to whom the concept of prana is new, check out my video 5 Vedic terms right here. I will continue to use Vedic language throughout my videos, and I highly suggest you start your own research on Eastern esotericism, especially on the Vedic wisdom of the rishis, sadhus, swamis, and the yogis. Now, when the natural, harmonious balance of this subtle energy is restored by God's divine power, the atomic balance of the physical cells it nourishes is restored. This healing is perfect and often instantaneous. So long as balanced vitality is maintained through right living, a proper diet, and pranayama meditation, which are techniques for controlling prana, the body's own life energy electrocutes germs even before disease can develop. Now, injuries and disease are more often the cause of death than is old age. Most people die before old age has really set in. In some cases, however, and they are exceptional, all parts of the body grow weak at once. Such people often die without pain, like ripe fruit that falls in due time from the tree. But the majority of people are plucked from the tree of life before they are really ripe for death. And in many cases, one bodily part ceases functioning before the rest, and death soon follows. So we have to obey nature's laws and have more faith in God. A master, meaning a realized saint, a yogi, Christ, Avatar, or Buddha, may ignore without ill effect dietary and other rules for health. The ordinary individual, however, should be careful to maintain physical well-being by right observance of the laws of nature. We should also drink plenty of water, of course, and our diet should be wisely chosen. So our macronutrients should be consumed in the right proportion within our caloric intake. Our the amount of calories we consume should be appropriate too, and we should go for foods rich in micronutrients. Now, this is not supposed to be a video about nutrition. There's plenty of information out there. I'm just putting the point across that you need to take responsibility for what you put in your body. Now, we are what we eat, after all, and in vegetables and fruits, God has infused medicinal power to help overcoming disease. Even these, however, have but a limited potency. The organs of the body are essentially sustained by the life-giving energy of God, and the person who employs various methods of increasing this energy will have at his command a greater power for healing than is afforded by any medicine or diet itself. Now, when disease attacks any internal organ of the body, nature provides many means by which the organ may protect, defend, and renew itself. But owing to various habits of living that alienate most of us from nature, our innate powers of recuperation and rejuvenation have become impaired and prematurely lost. Because harmful microbes are ceaselessly attacking our bodies and good ones are ceaselessly defending it, and this is aided sometimes by diet, herbs, or medicines and other health measures, but an unlimited source of protection only lies in the strong thought that as a child of God, we cannot be affected by disease. Mind has a far greater power than medicine, but of course to deny the power of medicine is unreasonable, because if drugs had no power, we could drink poison and not die. This is not the case, of course. So while one should not deny the potency of medicines and drugs, one should understand that a continuous dependence on them will prove their limitations. Now, a time will come when they will lose their former efficacy in restoring the body to health. The only infinite and inexhaustible power of healing lies in man's mind and in man's soul. However, the body cannot be healed by spiritual means if the mental power and the faith of the individual are weak. Again, permanent healing comes through the boundless power of the mind and through God's grace itself. Of course, one naturally has a better chance to overcome sickness in youth than in old age, though exceptions exist due to karmic conditions. Today, I think the average length of life, the average lifespan is 72 years, but many doctors agree that it could be a lot longer if by rightful living. Now, certain religious figures or yogis such as Mahavatar Babaji and a number of the great masters are said to have lived for several hundred years. Now, life may be prolonged indefinitely, not by food or medicine, exercise, sunbathing and other limited means, but by contact with the immeasurable power of God. We should think not only of the body, but also of the spirit. If we attain perfection in oneness with spirit, we shall find perfection in the body as well. Many people are continuously busy looking after their physical welfare, but neglect the development of their minds. The key to all power lies in the mind, and if one fails to cultivate that power, when serious disease comes, he may die regardless of his age. Now, I'd like to touch upon the powerful miracle of joy. Always smile and be happy, and I mean it. He who finds joy within himself discovered that his body is charged with electric current. And Paramhansa Yogananda used to say, if you feel that you can't smile, just grab your finger, stand before a mirror and force yourself into a smile. It is really that important. I remember that Yogananda recalled in his autobiography that as a young man in his guru's ashram, Yukteswar told him, remember that finding God will mean the funeral of all sorrows. When one is joyful within, he invites the help of the inexhaustible power of God. And a genuine smile distributes prana, the cosmic current, to every bodily cell. The happy man is less subject to disease because happiness actually attracts into the body a greater supply of universal life energy. And those smiles come from meditation. You will find then the eternal power of God. When you are in ecstasy with Him, you consciously bring His healing presence into your body. Mind power carries within it the unfailing energy of God Himself, and that is the power you want in your body, truly. And there's a way to bring in that power, and this is communion with God through meditation. When your communion with Him is perfect, the healing is permanent. And when the causative power of the Creator comes, the healing effect is instantaneous. There's no time required then for cause to ripen into effect. Now, many people in distress try to evoke that power, but they lose faith in the Lord when the healing is not instantaneous. But the man who clings to the divine is bound to be healed because God knows that the devotee is praying and he cannot but respond. But when you give up, the Father says, all right, I see that you can do without me, hence I shall wait. But the supreme power can be invoked by continuous faith and unceasing prayer. You should eat right, of course, and do whatever else is necessary for the body to, but you should continuously pray to Him, Lord, Thou canst heal me, because Thou dost control the life atoms and subtle conditions of the body that doctors cannot reach with medicines. So again, the external factors of medicines have a certain beneficial effect on the physical body, but do not affect the inner force that sustains the cells. It is only when you go to your source directly and receive this healing power that the life energy is directed into the atoms of the bodily cells and produces instantaneous healing. Wouldn't you rather depend more on God, your almighty creator? But realistically, the attempt to change one's dependence from physical to spiritual methods should be gradual. If a man accustomed to overeating falls sick and with the intention of trying to achieve a mental healing abruptly starts fasting, he may be discouraged if success is not forthcoming. It takes time to change one's way of thinking from dependence on food to dependence on the mind. To be responsive to the healing power of God, the mind must be trained to believe in divine aid. Out of that great power, the atomic energy is throbbing, manifesting and sustaining every cell of the physical universe, as movies in a cinema are sustained by a beam of light coming from the projection booth. So are all of us sustained by the cosmic beam, the divine light pouring from the beamer of eternity. When you look towards and find that beam, you will behold its unlimited power and rebuild the atoms and electrons and lifetrons in all body cells that may be out of order. So commune with the great healer. Have a great week.